Hey, it's Kevin DeWitt here. Welcome to another plugin knowledge session. This week we're going to have a look at a plugin from Antares called AVOX Choir. Now, technically it's part of a bigger bundle. It's sort of their AVOX series, which has a lot of others in there. But at some point, I'm not sure if they still sell it this way, but at some point I had the ability to get the choir plugin individually by itself. So I got that and we're going to have a look at it. And as the name indicates, it is supposed to give you a choir effect. So you basically place it onto a vocal track. So in my case here, I'm going to have a stereo vocal track, but it just sounds like a mono track, just as long as you have the effect on a stereo track. And it duplicates the vocal and manipulates it to attempt to get a choir effect into the background, sort of harmonizing and that sort of thing. So it's a very simple layout plugin. So let's check it out and see what we think. All right, so let's just disable the plugin here. Just quick run through here. As you can see, it's called Choir. It's from the Evo plugin package. Actually, I called it the wrong thing. It's from the Evo package, vocal multiplier. So our first little setting here is our choir size. So we get the options of 4 voices, 8, 16, 32. And then we have a setting of vibrato, pitch, and timing. So these all have to do with these amount of voices. So it's going to apply different variance levels of vibrato to the voices. So basically setting it to 30, it's the intensity of how much vibrato we are adding to these other vocal duplicates or copies as opposed to our lead vocal. So we're not applying this to our lead vocal. We're not applying this to our original vocal. We are just applying these settings here to the duplicated voices that Antares is applying to create our choir. So this one here, we can apply some vibrato to those voices. We can have some pitch fluctuation. So we're adjusting the pitch of the vocals. And then we've got the timing. So that's sort of delaying the vocals from the original vocal. So playing with all of these can give you some more natural or unnatural sounds, depending on what you're going for. Because it's duplicating the vocal, if it doesn't do some sort of effect to it, then they basically are the same vocal and you will hear no difference. So to get that choir effect, it needs to alter each of those voices with different parameters, and they're using vibrato, pitch, and timing to do that. Now you can eliminate all of those or any one of those to get the effect you want. So if you don't want any vibrato change, you can turn the vibrato down. If you don't want any pitch change, you can turn that down. But obviously if you turn all three down, then you'll probably get nothing. And we'll see that when we go through it. And then the last control here is our stereo spread. And we got a little visual representation of that. So obviously with 100, we are going fully wide with our choir here all the way to left and right, but we can wind that back in if we don't want to go for that massive effect. We can even mono it if we want, but we can just sort of tuck it in a little bit closer. So we've got a nice tight group of vocals, or we can go full all the way. Okay, so here's the vocal with the plugin off.
Out on the hills of glory land, so happy and free at God's right hand.
So straight, very clean vocal. You'll see it's mono, but it is placed on a stereo track. Now I'll bring in the plugin in its default setting.
Out on the hills of glory land, so happy and free at God's right hand. They tell of a place of marvelous
Okay, so instantly you can hear we've got sort of a choir effect now. We've lost that dry original vocal there. So originally I thought it would leave the original vocal alone, but it doesn't seem to do that. It affects the whole lot. So I guess if you wanted to have a choir sitting behind the lead vocal, I would probably duplicate this track and have one of them unaffected and then one with the choir on. So I'll play the song and we'll just play with the voices first.
Out on the hills of glory land, so happy and free at God's right hand, they tell of a place of marvelous grace on heaven's bright shore. Pilgrims on earth someday will go to live in that.
So you can hear the extra voices all coming in there. Obviously, you can't differentiate each one, but you can hear that it gets thicker, more choiry. And if you go back to 4, it starts to become thinner, and you can hear the less voices going on there. So I'll just play with the settings. So let's play with the vibrato. I'll just take it back down to, we'll go to 8 voices.
Out on the hills of glory land, so happy and free at God's right hand, they tell of a place of marvelous grace on heaven's bright shore. Pilgrims on earth someday will go to live in that home forevermore.
So the lowest setting you can go down is just 10. I guess that's to avoid you being able to disable all of these settings altogether. So you can hear down at 10, the vibrato is quite subtle. When I go up to the maximum one there's obviously a very unnatural amount of vibrato going on there. So let's have a listen to the pitch now.
Out on the hills of glory land, so happy and free at God's right hand, they tell of a place of marvelous grace on heaven's bright shore. Pilgrims on earth someday will go to live in that.
So we turn it up full, we start to get a really unpleasant sounding pitch there because we are fluctuating the pitch so much that we're just going right off notes.
Out on the hills of glory land, so happy and free at God's right hand, they tell of a place of marvelous grace.
And let's play with the timing.
Out on the hills of glory land, so happy and free at God's right hand, they tell of a place of marvelous grace on heaven's bright shore.
So when we went down to the narrowest one there, it was almost like the effect disappeared, but I will put it down there and bypass because you'll hear that it hasn't disappeared. It's still being affected, but what it's doing is the separation's not quite there and it's creating a phasey effect. Now when we go up to 200 there, it starts to make it sound like there's a fair bit of reverb on it and the room gets a bit bigger, but again it starts to become a bit unnatural at this sort of setting.
Out on the hills of glory land, so happy and free at God's right hand, they tell of a place of marvelous grace on heaven's bright shore.
So with all these settings low, you get a very phasey effect going on there. Not quite what you would sort of expect from a choir.
Out on the hills of glory land, so happy and free at God's right hand, they tell of a place of marvelous grace on heaven's bright shore.
If we bring the stereo width in.
Pilgrims on earth someday will go to live in that home forevermore, trusting in Him who.
So at 0 there, it sounds very sort of mono-ish, but you can still hear that choir. So to me, it sounds like you're really far back in the room, so far back that the stereo sound of the choir has narrowed and come towards you. and ends up just coming straight at you, not so wide. Whereas when you go further out, it's more like you're closer to the group and you can hear that stereo separation.
Out on the hills of glory land, so happy and free at God's right hand, they tell of a place of marvelous grace on heaven's bright shore. Pilgrims on earth someday will go to live in that home forevermore, trusting in Him who died for sin and rose from the grave on heaven's bright shore.
So to give you an example of what it would sound like if we wanted to have them separate, so I'm going to duplicate the track, and on this one here, let's just close that down. And I'm going to bypass the effect on that one. So if we listen to that, it should be straight.
Out on the hills of glory.
Okay, and on the other one, we should have the effect.
Out on the hills of glory land, so happy.
Now let's bring them together.
Out on the hills of glory land, so happy and free at God's right hand, they tell of a place of marvelous grace on heaven's bright shore. Pilgrims on earth someday will go to live in that home forevermore, trusting in Him who died for sin and rose from the grave on heaven's bright shore. There's gonna be no more dying, not one little grave in all that fair land. Not even a tear will dim the eye, and no one up there will say goodbye, just singing His praise through endless days on heaven's bright shore. Out on the hills of glory land, so happy and free at God's right hand, they tell of a place of marvelous grace on heaven's bright shore. Pilgrims on earth someday will go to live in that home forevermore, trusting in Him who died for sin and rose from the grave on heaven's bright shore.
So there you go. That's what you can get out of that. So blending the two together, sneaking a little bit of the choir in so that it's not too overpowering, can make it sound pleasant. Now keep in mind we've got this in isolation. Put it in a group, something like that with some other instrumentation, then you won't notice it so much and it will blend a lot better. And, I've tucked it in a little bit there, but you can set whatever you want there. I find the timing one to be the most useful setting because it gives that separation without making it sound too affected here. This vocal is not tuned. It'd probably sound a little bit nicer if we tuned the vocal first, got some of those slightly off-pitch notes more pulled in and sounding a lot better, and then the actual choir itself would also not sound so off there. So there you go, that's the Antares Choir plugin. So it's not a bad little plugin there, it can be quite useful for what I've shown. Obviously, it obviously sounds artificial, so it's not perfect. In an ideal situation, we would be recording harmonies, etc., with actual singers and getting it done a lot properly, and it would sound a lot better. But sometimes you don't have that option and you've got to achieve an end result with what you've got. So this tool could be looked at to do that. So check it out. I'm not sure if you can get a trial or anything like that, but have a look at the website, check it out, and hopefully this has been helpful. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.